And good afternoon to everybody. I know we've got at least one person watching. Hi, Connie. I hope you and Potato are doing well. I'm delighted to have you with us today. My guest comes all the way from sunny California, which makes a change from rainy Louisiana today. Please join me in welcoming Denice Gilb. Hey,
Hi,
Denice.
everybody.
Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you taking time out your schedule.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love doing this, and I'll do anything for you.
Sounds good. To start with, let's give you an easy question. Tell the viewers a little bit about you. Family, pets, where you're based.
Okay. Well, as you said to begin with, I'm based in sunny California, and actually the sun is out finally after our June gloom has left for this morning. I was born here, born in Pasadena, still live in the city of Los Angeles, actually, in an area called Studio City, right by Universal Studios, out this way. I have a sister and a brother. My sister lives here in California. My brother lives in New Mexico with his family. A lot of nieces and grandnieces and grandnephews, and my cat, who might make an appearance. We're never sure what he's going to do.
I don't mind cats, having two of my own. Let's just see if he shows up or not. That'll be interesting.
Yeah. He'll make a big deal if he does, usually.
Well, that's okay.
Just like a typical.
It'll prove we're live. Okay.
Absolutely.
So we have a Facebook user saying, "Hey, Denice, I have no idea who it is because they haven't allowed StreamYard to give me their name. So when you do see that, when you're clicking to join in on our podcast to watch, that's why I asked. It would allow me to share who you were and that you were viewing. But whoever you are, Denice, somebody's saying, hey.
Hi, whoever."
So thinking about Altrusa, who introduced you to Altrusa?
It's kind of a tricky question for me, only because my mom was a member of Altrusa and had been a member since something like 1940 or 1949, 1974, something around that time. So I knew of Altrusa because when she would have dinners or fundraisers, we were always invited to come, and most of the time we did, at least my sister and I did when we were living here. So it was just part of who we were. We were always raised to do charity work or to help others growing up. So it was like, okay, go to Altrusa. But I had opened a company in Arcadia where my parents lived and where my mom's club was. And I didn't live there, but I was close. I had a travel agency. And my mom called me up and said, "Hey, we're having a dinner tonight. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Sure. Yeah, I'll come. No problem." I get a free dinner too, so it worked out. But I was sitting at a table. My mom was president, so she was up at the head table. And I was sitting at another table with a couple ladies that I knew, and they said, "Why aren't you an Altrusan?" And I said, "I have no idea. I never thought about it." And so they said, "Okay, you're now an Altrusan, or you're going to be, and we're going to be your sponsors." So it was kind of yeah. My mom said to me afterwards when I told her what happened, she said, "Well, if you wanted to be an Altrusan, why didn't you just ask me?" And I said, "I didn't know I wanted to be one."
I think it's interesting because very often we don't make the ask.
Mm-hmm.
I had this conversation with someone a few days ago that in business, we know we always have to make the ask, but in Altrusa, we tend to talk ourselves out of it. And your mom was a prime example there. She didn't thought to ask you, she just assumed.
Yes, so, and she would have assumed that I would have said, "Hey, I want to join." Well, I don't know if I would have said that at that point.
Lesson learned.
Absolutely.
Think about and ask. I'm going to take a second here and say hi to Carol Latham, who says, "Hi, Julian and Denice." We've got Betty Abshire from Poplar Bluff, Missouri, District 8. And Hillary Sloan is also in attendance. So hi all, thanks for joining. I'm going to ask that you share the link that brought you to this podcast because we are trying to expand the audience. This is hopefully a resource for Altrusa, so please help us out. And let's move on quickly to our next question for Denice here. So we know who kind of introduced you, and you may already feel you've answered the next question, but what convinced you that Altrusa was the route you wanted to go?
I don't honestly think that I knew that Altrusa was the route I wanted to go for a little bit after joining. I think it was probably within about a year later. I would go and do things and help out, but it was kind of like, these people are really these women. It was in those days, it was all women. And I said, they're very interesting people. They all have a great story to tell. And I loved going out and helping with the community. It was Arcadia is where I grew up. I don't live there, but it's where I grew up. So I knew a lot of people there, and it was fun to go out and help. And I thought, okay, this was good. And then little things happened. I got asked to be a chairman or the chair of our international relations committee. Being in the travel business, it kind of went hand in hand. And so that was my first time ever chairing a meeting. And all of a sudden I'm learning different skills and new skills that went hand in hand. And eventually, the skills just keep coming that you just pick up. So that was another part that was good. But it was mostly, I think, the women and the dedication that the women and the stories that they had and where they came from. We had in my club when I first joined a woman that was a Ziegfeld Follies girl. Yeah. So it was kind of like, okay, this is a interesting group. So I think that's kind of what connected me with it. It's like, okay, I can do this. And it was a great way to meet people.
Mm-hmm. So thinking about your Altrusa journey from where you started, tell us a bit about some of the different things you've done in Altrusa.
Well, I became an Altrusan in 1990. And in 94, I think, or 93 to about 95, I served as the International Relations District Chair when we still had international relations as a separate entity. And I also was program coordinator underneath our governor at the time, Helen Camus. And I did everything in my own club except for secretary. That is the one position that I've not particularly wanted to do. So I went up to be president. I served as president throughout the years, about 3 different times. I started on the international or the directors, the district board in 2005 and worked my way up to being governor in 2013 to 15. I was actually on the district board for 14 years, all told, because after I went off as international or past governor, I stayed on as parliamentarian. And then I worked on the Centennial Committee for 2017. And then I've also been international director for 2 years. So
great. So you've served in quite a few positions.
Yes. Okay. Absolutely. And really liked all of them.
I think that's an awesome thing to do, to step up and serve when asked. But you've probably also been involved in a lot of different projects, club, district, and international. What would you say was your favorite project?
I was thinking a lot about that, and I changed clubs a few years ago. I'm now with the Anaheim Club, and even when I would go out for club visits, they had this program called Creative Writing Project, and I was just fascinated with it. Carol Latham was in charge of it, and so we talked about it at length. And then once I joined the club, I was able to be a part of it and be one of the judges. And it started out with one school, and it was the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades, and they were given an essay title called Finding My Voice, Telling My Story. And so they would all write in, the teachers would do this, and then we'd have a panel of judges from the library staff and Altrusa and the school district and different people, and they would judge the stories. And then at the end, we'd have a winners in each category and follow up, and they would make a booklet. This happens to be the most recent one. And it is in the Anaheim Public Library and all the school libraries. All the kids, all the award winners are given a copy, so they are published. The program has bloomed. It's now in 23 schools in Anaheim, and for all the fourth graders. They did limit it to the fourth grade, but hopefully we might move it out. But it has just from going from one school with 3 grades, and that was only a few years ago. This didn't take decades and decades to do. The kids love it, and the stories are just amazing. I understand that teachers love it too, because they learn things about their kids. And so the children write about what's important to them, or they write about their dog, or they write about their family, or what they did over summer vacation. It's kind of whatever story they want to tell. And it's fun to watch them from year to year to see how their writing improves too. So that really is one of my favorite programs. And the other one I think is the International Project of Days for Girls. I love that everybody is doing something, or it seems like an awful lot of clubs. The majority of clubs are doing something, no matter how small or how. I'm not a sewer, so I couldn't say, okay, I'm going to go sew these kits, but I can get supplies and be a cheerleader type thing, or do what they need, or pack the bags or anything. And so can everybody else. And that seems to be and I love the program because I think it's so important around the world and within our country. So I had to narrow them down. Those were my 2.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm actually curious, and I want to go back a little bit, because you said that you were basically involved with Altrusa through your mother for many years before becoming an Altrusan.
Mm-hmm.
Can you remember some of the projects that club used to do then? Because I'm curious to see, change over time. It's the researcher coming out in me.
Yeah. One of the first projects I remember, and I don't even remember the reason or what it was or what the purpose of, but I remember going to a fire station, and we were distributing things at the fire station. I don't remember the specifics. I think that was one of the first projects that I actually did. But we used to do, we did Vial for Life. That was a real big one. And we did it with the fire and police stations and the whole area. And that was where you had a medicine, those medicine jars, empty ones. And there was a piece of paper that put down all your information and your doctor, and if you're allergic to anything. And he kept it in the medicine thing, put it in a refrigerator with a sticker. So if something happened at your house and the EMTs had to come, they knew when they saw that sticker that you had their information. So if you couldn't talk, they could find next of kin. They could find out what you're allergic to, or what's, if there's a problem, an underlying problem. So that was one of a great project that we did. We also won the Mamie L. Bass for that. But I've
done a similar project with motorcyclists, where that same Vial of Life was kept in the motorbike for just that reason. And Carol Latham's saying she still has her vials from that project.
It's a great project.
Absolutely. And they transcend, it's not just about Altrusa. It's a very useful project for anyone out there to do. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I'm loving about the podcast is hearing all the different projects that people around the country have come up with, because, we tend to think we are all doing the same thing, but we're not.
No. But a lot of the projects can go coast to coast and everywhere else, and international. Mm-hmm. It's the idea. And sometimes that's all we need is that's a good idea, but we need to tweak it.
Exactly. Like I say, tweaking it for my motorbike club was something that we had done a few years back. And it's a very useful thing to have, because quite often if you're involved in an accident on the road, again, that sticker and knowing that in your little glove box, it is
there. Yeah, we were telling people to do it and to write the things in pencil, because your medicines change, everything's changed. So don't, revive it every year. So we always said, write it in pencil, so it's just there. And keep 2, one for your car, one for.
Yeah. Thinking about that Altrusa journey, is there one moment in your whole Altrusa time so far, because who's to say it's over yet, but is there one moment in time that you look back and think, wow?
I think the first thing that came to mind when I read this question was when I got installed as governor in 2013. My mom was my installing officer, and that was actually her last district conference. So it's just something really special. My sister took part in it, and that had a lot of memories, a lot of good times with that one. But also, the other thing that stands out for me more recently is when I was international director, I was honored to go visit different districts, and I actually visited 3 districts, 1, 2, and 14. And even though I've met a lot of these people through the time and from conventions and what have you, to go to people's districts and see them working on their projects was just so incredible. I love that. And the friendships that have bloomed from that, but from everything, have really continued on. So I think the visiting of the different districts, I'd love to go visit every district just on my own, just to kind of see what people are doing. I don't have to be a board member.
No, that's for sure you don't. And you're more than welcome to visit Club Information, Thibodaux, Louisiana. We would love to have you.
You got it. The next time I'm in Louisiana, I will be there.
Great to hear. One of the things that stood out for me there was when you said about your mum doing the installation. Obviously for myself, and I know this podcast is not about me, one of my favorite memories was when Maureen McGough, friend to both of us, came to District 9 and did my installation as president for my club, because she was obviously one of my sponsors. So it's the people that make the memories, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I think so. I think that's it's one of the most important things. Maureen and I were governors at the same time, which, I mean, everything kind of falls in where people meet. I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for Maureen, if it wasn't for Altrusa, and just all the timing and everything. It's amazing how this goes. And y'all are good friends. It's not just passing acquaintances, so it is amazing. And to go back and forth. One of the good things about going to convention is that you do meet other people from other districts, and all of a sudden friendships just bloom, and you just never know where they're going to go. And you find out you get common people. I met a woman through Maureen again. She's a busy person, whose husband was in the Army with my cousin. And they were already friends on Facebook. So it was kind of like, oh, wait a minute, how we are not related, but we are connected somehow. So I would never have known that if it wasn't for Altrusa.
So I have a final question for you. I think it's final. I might think of something else. If there's somebody watching our podcast today, either on the Curious About Altrusa link or perhaps through YouTube, which I would like to think people can share that link. If there's somebody who's not yet an Altrusan, but you could talk to them directly, what would you tell them?
Just do it. Just join. It's a lot of people I know, you get the questions, well, I can just go volunteer on my own. Why do I need an organization to volunteer with? And there's a lot of reasons why. Yes, you can go volunteer on your own, and Altrusa certainly doesn't stop you if you have pet projects or something like that. But this way you get this backing, I think, is the way to put it, with other people, plus the friendships. It's not just volunteering. This grows to so much more on so many different lengths. The teaching, the learning, the different talents that you have, and bringing out those talents. I was a tour guide most recently until I retired. I would not speak in front of people up until I started with Altrusa, and I learned that I had to get up in front of people. I would turn bright red, and you could just watch the color fade down as this. So I learned different skills. I picked them up, and it's Altrusa that taught me. So there's a lot of reasons to join Altrusa besides helping our communities, but it's the worldwide friendship that actually happens. And because we're all volunteers, we're all in the same boat.
Very
So to
true.
say. But yeah, so I'd say just do it. Just join. And if you need a sponsor, I'll be glad.
Yep, that's for sure. I really appreciate you taking time, Denice, to come and speak with us today.
Thank you,
Maybe
Jillian, for doing this. You're doing a great job.
I don't know. I think sometimes people think, is this just my vanity project? But as we discussed before we came live, my hope is that there's people out there who don't want to feel the pressure of coming to an Altrusa meeting in case they feel the pressure that they have to become an Altrusan. I'm hoping that by seeing that we are just regular people, that they might think, yes, they want to know a little bit more about us, because Altrusa's been a best kept secret for too long, and it's time we got out of that genre.
Absolutely. And now, with all this going on, we're getting better at doing live or Zoom meetings and different things. So if you can't make it to a meeting, there's always an alternative.
This is true.
Yeah. We're
Alrighty.
learning lots with the COVID.
Yes, we sure are. So thanks, Denice. I will talk with you later.
Thanks, Jill.
So, as I said, this is just one of those things where we're chatting to Altrusans, getting to know them. Is there somebody that you have a story with? Let me just tag on to something Denice said and Carol said. She actually had said, thanks for mentioning the creative writing project, that it was one of her favorites. And getting to know people's stories was one of the things Denice said she loved about that. Well, this podcast is getting to know Altrusans and their stories. So if you know an Altrusan who has a story that you think I should be telling, please contact me, let me know. You may want to ask them first, just in case. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I would love to have a list of people that I maybe don't already know. An Altrusan that you don't know is just a friend you haven't met yet. So help me meet some new friends. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. Remember, this will be shared onto YouTube. We do have another video podcast coming up. It's going to be on Saturday at 10 a.m. Somebody asked me why they're all done at different times. Well, that's because I will accommodate whatever time my volunteer, my willing subject, is available. So we are going for double trouble on Saturday. We have Linda and Brenda Smith of Altrusa of Salina, Kansas, 10 a.m. Central Time. I would love to see you there. Thanks, everyone.